Hi, I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. Welcome to Connections on Purpose. Whether you're here with us live on Zoom, joining us on Facebook, or watching later on YouTube, I'm glad you're here. Connections on Purpose is where women come together to have meaningful conversations, make genuine connections, and be seen and heard. It's a place to listen, learn, share, and sometimes discover something new about ourselves and each other. If any of this speaks to you, I'd love to have you join us for one of our Connections on Purpose Zoom gatherings and experience the community for yourself. The link for more information is in the text of this video. Today's speaker asks us to slow down, turn inward, and pay attention to what is already alive within us so we can nurture what matters most and create lives that feel authentic, meaningful, and on purpose. That's what we're going to explore today with the wisdom within, cultivating the life you were meant to live. As you listen, I invite you to consider what is alive in you right now that is asking for your attention. Our speaker, Charleen Michel, PhD, is the Switzerland-based founder of Wisdom Unleashed. She's an author, speaker, and guide devoted to helping women reconnect with their inner wisdom, authentic voice, and inner power. Drawing on decades of international leadership experience and her work with meditation, embodied practices, and reflective writing, Charleen bridges practical wisdom with soulful exploration. Through her writing, speaking, and soul notes project, she invites women to remember why they came here or who they came here to be. You can visit Charleen's website at wisdomunleashed.ch, and that is also in the text of this video. Welcome, Charleen. You're on.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Jenny. I'm excited and maybe just a little bit nervous because this is the first time I'm actually speaking to this group as a featured speaker. But I'm delighted to share the topic of the wisdom within cultivating the life you were meant to live. Because we've just spent some time as a group exploring the question, how do we cultivate the life we were meant to live by learning to trust the wisdom within us? And I love hearing the different ways that this question speaks to us because there isn't just one way to cultivate the perfect life. There is no perfect answer to all of this. But perhaps by beginning with something within each of us that we know and sharing it with others, we can spread that wisdom further in the world. Last week, Mary Knipple left us with a beautiful question during her session. And I wasn't able to join it live, but I did catch the recording, and I'm glad that I did. Because she was asking us the question, what story is your soul inviting you to live next? And I was fascinated with that question. And it occurred to me that perhaps the question that she asked, what story is my soul inviting me to live next, blends beautifully with the question of, and how do I cultivate the life that allows that story to emerge? Those two questions are very personal to me, and I will just tell you, I just felt a drop in my heart as I shared them with you, because I haven't always lived this way. For almost 40 years, I worked in international business and leadership. And I loved my work. I traveled the world and I worked with extraordinary people. I also developed leaders and organizations and accomplished a lot of things that I'm proud of and a lot of experiences that I wasn't so proud of. So learning by doing and also learning by failing. But I became very good at achieving and solving problems, getting back up on my feet, taking responsibility, and quite frankly, keeping things under control. And I'm very good at keeping things under control, let me tell you that. And from the outside, that looked like success. But there was another story unfolding underneath it. And I recently wrote about that story in one of the books that was published earlier this year called The Journal of a Visionary. And I wrote a chapter in the book called The Long Way Home, How to Transform Anxiety into Inner Peace. And it's a story about how I gradually began to recognize that something within me was asking for a different way of living. And my body was the first thing to shout. It wanted attention. And then life brought on transitions and losses that simply couldn't be managed or solved the same way I had done it in the past. And so slowly the questions I was asking myself began to change. And instead of asking, what do I need to accomplish next? I started asking, who am I beneath everything that I've accomplished? Or what really matters to me now? And how do I want to live the next season of my life? And what I realized was I wasn't just coming back to my home. I was rediscovering myself and rediscovering that the answers that I was searching for were within me. And somewhere along that way, that long way home, there were 4 invitations that came up. And I call them my personal soul notes. They're pieces of wisdom that I've gathered through living and through experience. And I didn't recognize them at first as a framework, but I simply started to learn to live them. How can I open my heart? How can I listen to my soul? How can I trust the wisdom that is within me? And how can I nourish what is alive? And today they become even more familiar to me because many of you may know I'm a passionate gardener. I've created, designed, and implemented 3 different kinds of gardens in my life. And I'm now doing the 3rd one in this season. And it's a Mediterranean garden. I've developed English rose gardens, alpine gardens, and now I'm doing a Mediterranean garden with Mediterranean plants like azaleas, like lavender. But I also have roses in my garden. I also have herbs and vegetables in my garden. And I spend a lot of time there planting, tending, watching, and sometimes just sitting silently on the garden bench and watching everything grow around me. And the garden keeps reminding me that you can't force something to flourish. You can prepare the soil, you can plant the seed, you can give it water and light, but then you also have to trust it to grow. And so one day I was sitting in my garden and I found myself just wondering, but what if cultivating the life we were meant to live isn't about striving harder or searching for another answer outside of ourselves? What if it's about creating the conditions within for me to listen and to emerge with the true self that lives within me? And so that's what I'd like to explore with you briefly today. I'm going to just briefly introduce the 4 soul notes and elaborate a little bit more on them. And then the months ahead will have the opportunity to explore each one more deeply. So the first soul notes: open your heart and prepare the soil. Because anybody out there who knows about gardening, you know before you plant something new, you have to pay attention to the soil and the environment that's around you. Sometimes the soil is hard and it's compacted, or maybe the environment is toxic and there's fumes going around in the environment around us, and even the strongest seed may struggle to grow there. And I think our lives are a lot like that. Sometimes we protect ourselves. I know I did. And we become very busy, efficient, and we just keep on going and going and going. And sometimes without realizing it, we also become hardened and toxic. And for much of my professional life, my mind served me extremely well. I could analyze, I could plan, I could solve, I could achieve. I could then move on to the next thing. But what I couldn't do was I couldn't soften. I just kept pushing, pushing, pushing. And I had to learn to soften. I had to learn to feel, to allow, and to open up my heart to myself as much as to other people, and drop all of the shields that I had protecting me. Because before something new can grow, sometimes we have to soften what's become hard and make space for it to thrive. And so I leave you with the first question for the first soul note. Where in your life are you being invited to soften rather than to strive? I'll then move on to soul note number 2. Listen to your soul and notice the seasons. Notice what's happening around you and allow your body to feel it. Because everything in the garden has a season. There's a time to plant, a time to bloom and flower. There's a time to harvest, and there's a time to rest. And nature doesn't apologize for any of that, but we often do. We're often afraid to say, sorry, I need to take a break. I need to take a rest. I'm tired. And so some of the important changes in my own life began when I became quiet enough to listen. And meditation helped, nature helped, writing helped, and slowly beneath all the noise, I began hearing another voice. It wasn't loud, it was more like a whisper. And it just kept saying to me, pay attention to this. This soul note reminds me of a conversation I had many years ago with an research and development leader that I will call Carlos. I was a European HR business partner for the R&D organization. And Carlos was a very proud, bright, ambitious, and hardworking leader. He was building a successful career, he was advancing at a high pace, and he had enormous potential. And he was a big guy, maybe 6'4", 193 centimeters tall. And one evening, just as I was getting ready to leave the office, he appeared at my door. Do you have a few minutes? I actually just wanted to leave and go home for the evening, but I could see something was very wrong. And so I said, of course, come in. And he sat down. And after a moment, he broke down. My wife wants a divorce. He was devastated. I had known Carlos as someone who could handle just about anything, but he had no idea how to solve this. And I let him talk. She says, I'm never there. The children don't see me. She feels she's raising them by herself. And he shook his head and he grasped his hand tightly. And he said, but I've been doing it all for them. She doesn't understand. And I work because I want to provide well for my family, to give them a good life. I thought that was my responsibility. And then there was silence in the room. And I asked him, Carlos, has she tried to tell you this before? And he said, yeah, many times. I heard her, but I really didn't want to listen to what she had to say. And he kept telling me more and more about all the time she asked him to be home with him. And he kept thinking, once this project is finished, and once I have more time, and after this trip, and after the next promotion, and when things settle down. And then he looked at me and he said, I thought I was creating a good life for my family. And I didn't realize I was missing the life we already had. And now it's coming to an end. And Carlos's story has stayed with me for a long time because it's so easy for us to miss out on something important and not truly listen to what's going on around us until it's too late. And perhaps listening to our soul isn't just about discovering some grand purpose or achieving a significant result. Sometimes it's simply noticing what we already know before life has to speak more loudly to get our attention. So the question that's associated with soul note number 2 is, what has been quietly asking you for your attention? You don't need to know what to do about it, just simply notice it. And then we'll go to soul note number 3, trust the wisdom within. Trust that seed, and just think about that seed for a moment. Because a seed doesn't look anything like the flower or the tree that it's going to eventually become, but it already has everything in it that it needs to start growing. It doesn't need to become something else. It needs to be more fully what it already is. And perhaps that's something we need to do too. I've spent a lot of time learning and studying and going to courses and talking to people, but there's tremendous wisdom also from other people. And I remember working with a global R&D technology center director. I'll call him Alexander. Alexander and I worked closely together for 7 years. We traveled together. We did mergers and acquisitions together. We dealt with leadership challenges and difficult business decisions. And he was a brilliant scientist. He had 2 PhDs, one in material science, one in chemical engineering. And he was one of the wisest leaders that I knew. And I was just getting ready to move on to my next role. And Alexander offered to me 2 pieces of advice. The first one was, you have to learn to say no. You know inside if you don't like something, but you have to learn to say no. But I really didn't understand why, because like many people and many other people, I thought saying yes meant I was committed, I was dependable, I was valuable, you can't do without me. And it took me years to understand that even every meaningful yes sometimes requires us to have a courageous no. And then he shared something else with me. Remember, he's a PhD and I'm a scientist, and he says to me, trust your intuition. Don't question it. And I sat there and I thought, this is a really strange thing for somebody like him to say to me, because we've been trained in dealing with logic, analysis, data, evidence. But he wasn't asking me to abandon all the reason and all the data. He was reminding me that wisdom is larger than reason. And eventually we will arrive at decisions for ourselves that nobody else can give us an answer for. So let me leave you with this question. If you truly trusted the wisdom within you, what might you do differently? And would you say no to some of the things you said yes to earlier? And now the last soul note. Nurture what is alive and water what matters. And this may be the one speaking to me most strongly right now. Because when I walk into my garden, I find myself looking for signs. What's flowering? What's struggling? What needs watering? What needs to be cut back? What maybe needs a little bit more space? And so I've started asking myself the question, what is alive in me now? And how can I nourish it? And how can I take my precious time and energy and attention and devote it to something that really makes a difference? So these 4 invitations, these 4 soul notes, have been an important part of how I'm thinking about the season of my life as I continue on my journey the long way home. And today I've only just opened the door to each one of them, and I'll be exploring each one of them in more detail. But for today, I don't want you to think more about the details behind it. I want you to think more about which of the 4 soul notes is calling to you in this season. Is it to open your heart and soften? Is it to listen to your soul and go within and be quiet for a while? Or trust the wisdom within and trust your intuition and know when to say yes and know when to say no? Or is it to nourish what is alive? And don't just notice which one, don't just notice all 4 of them. Notice the one that speaks to you first. Because you can't work on all 4 of them at the same time. And perhaps that is your soul note for today. And then ask yourself, what is one small thing that I can do to honor that soul note? One small step and one small thing that I can do to move forward. And I have a handout that I want to share with you that I'd like to put into the chat. Actually, I'll share it with you quickly. Are you seeing that? Jenny, is there a way that I can send this to the people or put a copy of it in the chat?
You should be able to put a link in, and I'm in a weird position right now because I removed myself from the spotlight and now I can't see myself.
Oh,
So
okay.
if it looks like I'm kind of been weird, that's why. Do you have a link to the document? Or I think you can, do you need a link? I don't know.
I don't know. Let me wrap up the presentation and then
Yeah,
I'll
and then
come
we can
back
work
in
on
it
it.
and add it in later. Okay, let me come back to the Zoom meeting. No, I'm not seeing it anymore. Oops, oops, oops. Okay. I'm just coming to the end of the presentation, and I just want to share that wisdom is something that we actually remember. It's something that's within us. And I also want to remind you that you're also the gardener of your story. And as you explore the 4 soul notes in more detail over time, allow yourself to become who you truly are. Because the wisdom you've been searching for may already be within you all along. And sometimes the longest journey we ever take is the journey home to ourselves. So I thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to answering any questions that you have.
Okay, Charlene, I'm going to stop the recording in just a moment, but are you sharing a screen? Or there you go. And Vicky, since you're a co-host, can you spotlight me if you can see me? Ruth told me she could see me in the chat. So is Vicky still here? Yeah, if you can spotlight me, that would be great. Yay! That was very strange to not be able to see myself. Thank you, Charlene. I hope I wasn't too distracting. I thought it looked like I was gone, and then you would wonder where I went. I do love the reminder that the wisdom we're looking for isn't something outside of us. Sometimes it may be, but a lot it's inside of us. And it's just, as you said, waiting for us to slow down and listen and trust and nurture what's asking to grow. So before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one question. What is one thing, and this is specifically for the people who are watching this later, because I think you've all been looking at this question today, but what is one thing that is alive in you right now that you're willing to nurture a little more intentionally? And let's take a moment and show Charlene some love. So I'd love for those of you with me here on Zoom to unmute yourselves so that we can applaud and shout and let her hear our appreciation for what she shared with us today.
Thank you
Beautiful.
so
Woo!
much.
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Pleasure.
Very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to all of you who joined us here live or catching the replay, thank you for being part of our community today. If something you heard today spoke to you and you'd like more opportunities for conversations like this, I invite you to, excuse me, I invite you to join us for a future Connections on Purpose gathering on Zoom or in person. You can learn more about our gatherings and the On Purpose Woman Global Community and explore On Purpose Woman magazine at our website, opwgc.com. That is also in the text of this video. So until we're together again, be curious, be inspired, be connected, and be on purpose. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.